Hi everybody, today I'm going to be working in this book here. This is Wildflower Folk by Christine Karron, and the reason I've chosen this book today is because earlier on this morning I was watching a video by Christine Karron. I'm not entirely sure if it was Instagram or YouTube, but she does have it on both platforms, so I'll try and link them both down below. And in this video she was colouring a sort of rainbow kind of fairy skin, sort of using this same kind of colour palette here, and it ended up looking really cool. I really liked it, and my weird little brain decided that it might be a good experiment today to try and recreate the same kind of skin tone, not exactly the same colours. As you'll see in a minute, my set is really small, but try and create the same kind of effect of skin tone using the humble Crayola pencil. And yeah, as you can see, my set is very small. This actually wasn't even a full 36 set when I brought it. It was reduced because there were some pencils missing. So my set is very limited, but I've picked out some colours that are around the same kind of colours that Christine was actually using. She herself was using Polychromos pencils, which have a much bigger range than 36, obviously. So I've had to be a bit creative picking out colours that might create the same kind of effect. And I think we had something going on that was looking pretty cool. So I thought I'd share that with you today to show you how I was getting the same kind of effect with a lot cheaper pencils. And I'll show you the picture I was colouring in this morning. There we go. This is the picture that I was working on. This is called Spring Wind. As you can see, this is the effect that I had going on this morning, and looking through the viewfinder, the colours are looking maybe a little bit darker than the ones that Christine was using in her video. And I think that might be because down in this area of the picture that I have coloured, there was a lot more of the grayscale kind of shading going on, which obviously dulls the colour down very slightly, and Crayola are not the most opaque of pencils anyways. So yeah, as I was laying that down, the colours were looking slightly darker. And also this paper is not white, it's a slightly off-white kind of creamy colour, so that also affects the way the colours are looking. So to try and combat that, I did bring in, as well as the Crayola pencils, I brought in the white, my very battered looking white Polychromos here, and that wasn't for blending, as I usually use it a lot for blending. It was just for colouring in these white areas to try and get them looking a bit more white, a bit closer to what I was watching on Christine's actual video. It's helped a little bit, I think. It does look slightly whiter than the paper there, which is a good thing. And the colours that I've picked out, as I said, are not going to be exactly the same as the ones that Christine was using. I didn't even try to colour match or anything like that. I just picked out a few colours that I thought I could get the same kind of effect going on with. And the picture that she coloured, she did work on the actual face, and she used a lot more of a magenta pink kind of colour than what I've used down here. But I figured if I was filming the face on video, I could try and bring that pink maybe for her cheeks, around her lips and her eyes maybe, as a bit of makeup, and then we'd get that pink coming through. I did use it very slightly in some areas, but yeah, I think it will come in a lot more on the face. So her face actually might end up looking a bit closer to what we see in Christine's video. But I'm not aiming to be completely the same. I'm aiming to get something along the same lines. Maybe to show that you don't really need the expensive pencils to get good effects. Crayola do take a lot more layers usually, if you can make them layer on the paper. They do take a lot more layers to get your colours looking more vibrant. And they don't blend as well as the more expensive pencils, but you can get good effects with them. And I thought maybe I'd try and show you today how I was getting this kind of skin tone going on. They weren't blending the best. As you can see here, I've brought in my usual trick of putting little beauty marks on my girl's skin. And that's a trick I usually use when the pencils don't blend as well as I was maybe hoping, and there's little streaks and marks coming through. And that's to try and blend those in, those little marks, or disguise them a little bit. I usually bring in these little beauty marks, so if any of those do creep into my colourings, it's usually because the pencils weren't blending as well as I'd hoped. And sometimes I do use them just because. All that being said, I will zoom us in now and we'll start working on a face there, see if I can get that effect working again. Fingers crossed I can get that effect working again. I was having a lot of fun with it this morning. So I'll zoom us in and we'll start working on a face. We're in a little bit closer now, and before we start I will show you the colours that I've picked out to work with to try and make this kind of rainbow multicoloured skin tone. Not colour matched at all, just some colours I've picked out that I thought I could make a pretty decent effect going on with. I'll show you the colours I picked out now. Hopefully the names won't glare too much because they're actually picked out in gold paint and that might be glaring a little bit from the lamp, but I'll try and show you here. We have lemon yellow, turquoise, blue, which is about the darkest blue that I did actually have on hand. We have light blue, jade green, The red, I thought maybe I could bring that in for her lips, but I haven't used it so far yet on the rest of the skin I've been colouring. The orange, which I've been pretty sparing with. We do have the magenta, and this is the black that I was bringing in for the very, very dark shadows, because I think Christine was using a very dark blue, and the darkest blue I have is that just blue, it's called blue. So I was bringing in the black on these very, very dark shadows, these kind of areas here. But this blue is the darkest colour that we do seem to have, so I'll start by just going in and putting in a few shadows. And the light for this picture is coming from the left, so I'll try and work with that to build my shadows according to where the light is actually coming from. And these pencils and Crayolas, they don't layer super well. You can get a few layers going with them if you're lucky, and this paper is pretty good paper, so yeah, I was managing to get a few different layers going on this morning, which was good. And I just started picking out the darker shadows with the dark blue, trying to go from, probably not really a good tip to be giving, but I was trying to go from dark to light, starting with the darkest colour, blending down into the lightest for these lighter areas. I'm going to try, I think, to keep the cooler colours in these shadowy areas, because cooler colours in general work better for the shadowy areas. But looking at Christine's, I have got kind of a still from the video pulled up there. Looking at Christine, she has used a bit of the magenta in her shadows as well, so maybe I might try bringing that in a little bit. Not that I'm trying to copy exactly, but to give the same kind of effect, to see if it can be achieved with the cheaper brand pencils. And this is kind of what I was talking about when I was doing my pound shop video the other day. I did mention it might be interesting to try and do the Christine Karron kind of multicoloured skin with the cheap, just a 10 or 12 pack of pencils. And to be honest, yeah, I think this probably could be done. Maybe not the whole picture, but just working with the pencils in the 10 or 12 set, I think could possibly work. And as usual, I'm just kind of playing around with these colours, trying to get something that I think might work. I did use the blue and the magenta there. Not copying exactly, as I've said, I'm just trying to get something of the same sort of effect going on. The yellow is obviously the lightest colour, this lemon yellow, so for the highlights, I'm leaving that lemon yellow for the highlights. I think that's kind of the base sort of colours that I think I want to have going on. And we can try layering those. Maybe bringing in that light blue. Unless they're not the most opaque of pencils, you can kind of see the same colour underneath. You can see that's blending into the green to give a kind of turquoisey colour. Let's emphasise the shape of her face there. But this is the darker side of her face, so she won't have so much in the way of highlights. Can even try to get some sort of a purple going on by overlaying the magenta with the light blue. I think Christine Karron did use a sort of blue-violet colour to get the colours that she had going on, so yeah. Trying to be a little bit creative and figure out a way to get that going on with my limited little set of pencils here. It was quite interesting. I think this dark blue will be the main kind of colour that we're using to show our shadows, so I'm keeping that. I'm trying to where the grayscale actually tells us where the shadows are going to be. And then bringing in the other colours as midtones with yellow as the highlight. That seems to be kind of the way that it was being worked. I think we might need a little bit of that green, just for a splash of green there. If I do use the orange, I'll maybe bring it in on this lighter side of her face, as I did further down. I brought in the orange towards the lighter areas. She did seem to have a lot of that magenta pink going on with the eye kind of socket area. Or maybe it's the blue violet, so I'll bring in the magenta. And Christine Karron was actually using a white gel pen, which I was quite happy about. My last video I couldn't use white gel pen, so slightly disappointed with that. And this turquoise blue is more of a highlight colour as well, slightly brighter. I want to leave a little bit of a highlight for her cheek there, because this side is the dark side that's away from the light, so I don't want to make it too bright, but I do want to leave some sort of a highlight going on in the middle there. Using the yellow to blend, maybe. I think I was doing that earlier on. Just using the yellow to maybe blend a little bit. And the black, as I said, for the very darkest parts of the picture, like where these creases of her eyelids. Maybe bringing in, pressing it a little bit harder with that blue to blend that black in. Yeah, that you can't get too many layers with the Crayolas, but I think we've got enough layers going on there to be making the point of giving the same sort of effect. Obviously not exactly the same, and as I said, with this white Polychromos, I was just bringing that in. I think maybe blending in the very edges, but just to try and make that white area of the picture actually be white instead of that kind of off-white or cream colour. And there we go, that's the kind of effect we're looking for. And even on this lightest side of her face, this would be where the light was coming from, but even on this lightest side of her face there was a little bit of shadow. So as we can see the grayscale there, I'm just working with that grayscale. It's actually showing us. And this is the side that's closest to the light, so this is where we're going to be using that orange colour and more of the yellow to hopefully give a little bit of an eye-catching effect going on there. And we do have blushy cheeks, so I'm going to try and bring in that magenta. It won't be blending super well, but we will try. Maybe overlaying the blue a little tad to give a little bit of a purple tint there. Maybe, as I thought, I did have the idea of maybe bringing in this orange slightly more and blending more into the yellow on this side of her face, because the orange and the yellow together should hopefully be dragging the attention towards her face, which is where, as usual, we want attention to be going towards the face. But of course, it's your picture. You could make your centre of attention anywhere. We could even make it the flowers if we wanted to. That might actually be interesting, actually, trying to make the centre of attention for the page something completely different than what it's meant to be. So yeah, I'm going quite heavy with the yellow there, trying to blend in that orange and add to this highlighted area on her cheek. And we do seem to have a slight bit of the orange in the still that I'm looking at along this side of her nose, and I think that might be to give a little bit of contrast to the blue. I think maybe we came in a bit too far with our dark blue there. We could do with the orange going a little bit out there. That seems to be working. Can we maybe bring it in on this side of her nose as well? Trying to give something of the same effect that I can see in the picture I've got open here. Although copying is not really my strong point. I tend to have things go horribly wrong when I try to copy exactly any other artist or copy anyone's style. It never seems to work when I try. So I try and be influenced by, but not exactly copy, and that seems to work a little bit better for me. I've never been able to exactly copy anyone's kind of style. So usually I just try and figure out the main points of their style, kind of run with it, bring my own little version. Christine Karron's pink seems to be a lot brighter than this one, but I don't really want to bring in a more kind of Barbie pink. I don't think that would really work. I'm thinking maybe we need to bring in maybe the blue down this side of her nose. We can bring that into her eye socket. Her noses are always tricky. Yeah, I've erased a little bit of that orange we put at the side of her nose there. That wasn't really working for me. Again, anytime you're not happy with what's going on, you can erase. Although some paper will get a bit grumpy with you if you erase too much, but this book, the Blue Angel paper, yeah, it's pretty good paper. You can put it through quite a lot. It's looking like we need to bring in the green and the turquoise a little bit more. Again, this is one where I do have to concentrate and try and figure out where these colours would probably best go. So not a lot of talking maybe. But I think maybe sometimes it's just a demonstration that might actually help give a little bit of idea going on. You could bring in the white to blend, which might make life a little bit easier. You could bring in that white to blend. I was trying not to though. To be honest, I wanted to just use the pencils on their own and see what I could kind of come up with. A slightly brighter green I think may have worked maybe a little bit better. We don't have a very bright green. I'm sure there's one called yellow green. That one may have worked slightly better, so let's give a little bit of an indication that she has a chin there, but not going too over the top. I was working on this skin down here quite a lot this morning. There's quite a few layers going on there. I was working on that for at least an hour and a bit, I think, this morning. Got a little bit carried away before I remembered that, yeah, this was something I wanted to film. So there's quite a few layers going on towards the bottom there. So the colours are slightly darker maybe, slightly more better blended. I'm not entirely sure if I will go on and use the Crayola to finish the whole picture. Maybe I'll try and bring in some watercolour. Christine Karron does use a lot of watercolour, I think, if I'm remembering right. I think she does. I'm leaving my usual kind of white highlight along the edge of her jaw there, but yeah, I will probably come in and use the white gel pen, as there's no reason not to for this colouring. Probably need a little bit more blending there on her cheek. I wasn't trying super hard, to be honest. Hopefully these colours, it will be pretty obvious which one I'm actually picking up. I haven't said every time, but they are all pretty different colours, so I'm hoping, yeah, it should be fairly obvious which one I'm actually picking up to use. With a bit of luck. But as usual, no step-by-step kind of instructions, I'm afraid. It's just a case of playing with the colours that I've picked out, trying to get the same kind of effect that I saw earlier. And to be honest, right now I'm not even really looking at my reference image. I'm just playing with the colours and seeing what I can make happen here. And nose probably needs some more work. Noses are really difficult. Let's bring in the white here for these cheeks. Maybe try and blend in those pencil strokes, but I don't mind them super much, to be honest. I think from a distance you wouldn't really be able to notice that. If I zoomed out, you probably wouldn't be able to notice the pencil strokes super much. But we do want the white areas to actually be white. And maybe the white of her eyes, actually, thinking on it. I don't really want to get too carried away and finish the whole picture on camera, although I might finish off the whole picture. Let's have the blue. Not actually trying to copy now, not even really looking at that reference image, and yeah, it works a lot better for me if I just put my own kind of twist on things. Don't try and copy exactly reference image. And as usual, once I get involved, get focused on what I'm doing, there won't be a lot of talking, I'm afraid. And yeah, I haven't really said which pencils I am picking up to use, but they will all be listed in the description. And hopefully it is kind of obvious which one I am picking up. You can see from the colours, the whole barrel is the colour of the pencil, so hopefully that should be kind of easy to figure out which ones I am actually using. There we go. Give her the shading for her eye socket there. That's looking okay to me. Might bring in a gold gel pen or Sharpie there for that kind of crown. I'm really liking this turquoise colour, to be honest. So we're getting something similar to the Christine Karron actual image. The same kind of effect, but yeah, not following as a tutorial or a call along or anything. I've just been looking at a still image of the, you know, the from the end of the video. I've been looking at a still image and trying to kind of get a similar kind of effect. Not trying to recreate it exactly. Just play around until I find something I'm happy with. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is going. The picture she coloured is not this image. I think it's one called Flower Earring, if I'm not mistaken. The flower earring that she colours in her video is actually in her Etsy store, so I'll try and link that down below as well. A little bit of shading there. If I remember in editing, I'll try and put in the name of the colour that I'm using. Yeah, it is a really old, really bad eraser, but it's what I have on my table right now. I think we need to bring in that green a little bit. Possibly the yellow. And this side of her forehead would be in the light, so there would be quite a bit of the yellow. I think the lightest colour around this central area. Let's move on and try and do her lips while I'm thinking about it. This is where the red would possibly come in. I'm going to see if I can bring in the red and the orange. Maybe a little bit of the blue as shading. Yeah, that's working, I think. Need some red on this side, more furthest away. Possibly yellow. Do we need yellow? Yeah. Maybe the magenta pink. Or is it just called magenta? I don't know. Maybe that'll work. Yep. And we'll bring the blue in for the darkest. There we go, that's working, I think. Here I am getting carried away as per usual. I'm using the black very, very lightly. Do her eyes. Just put the shadows in for the top of her eyelid there. Shall we try and make a rainbow effect going on in her eyes? Might be interesting. Again, I do seem to pick when I'm on film to try and try things out. It's probably not a very sensible thing to do. Could stick to just blue. Why be boring? Maybe they might blend in too much with her skin, but for the fun of it, I'm going to go anyway. Christine Karron didn't actually colour the eyes in the picture that she was colouring on her video. I'm going to bring in the light blue there, the turquoise. There's a little bit of that for shadow. To the, not sure what this part of the eye is called. Is it sclera? The white bit of her eye anyway. I'm going to bring in that lightest blue. Darken those pupils a little bit with the black. Give her a little bit of eyeliner, I think, just to emphasise these eyes. Big highlight. And another one. Shine lines. And yeah, those don't blend into her face too much at all, so yeah, quite happy with that. Probably Christine Karron herself could do a lot better even with Crayolas, but yeah, very fun. This is the darkest blue with the darkest shadows in the area. This is the light blue. Trying to layer a little bit more. But of course, if you are trying this, you can blend a lot better. You can even bring in the white pencil and try blending with the white pencil or your blending solution or whatever method you use. There we go. Yep, it does blend it in slightly better, but I was trying to go for just the normal pencils and seeing what we could get done. And I'm quite pleased with the result we've actually managed to get, actually. I think we've gotten the same kind of effect quite nicely. We have a little mark there with a pencil. It isn't blending. So we have a beauty mark. Kind of Marilyn Monroe style there. Okay, maybe her face is looking slightly different to the skin tone on her neck there, I'm seeing. So I'm going to bring in a little bit more of this orange. We did have a little bit more of that going on in her neck kind of area, I think. I think it might be just because that I've layered a lot more on her neck there. Plus, of course, there is a lot more of the grayscale shading going on down here. We could try and bring in a little bit of that black to add some darker shadows. Maybe that will help. Let's see how it looks when we add the white highlights. I think maybe I used a bit more of the green down on the neck, so I'll try and bring in a bit more of this green in the nose area here. I did use a lot more of this magenta actually on her cheeks, so maybe that's what's making her face look slightly different colour to her neck, but maybe I could try thinking of it. Maybe we could bring in this orange a bit more on her forehead. Maybe that will bring us more into line with what we had going on her neck. I wasn't actually looking at her neck while I was colouring in, so we have deviated a little bit from the kind of colour combos I was using this morning. We are zoomed in pretty close, so this very rough blending that I'm doing won't be looking the best. But once we zoom out, I think we'll probably be looking a little better. And yeah, I'm thinking if I bring in the green and the orange, I think maybe that'll bring us more, looking a little bit better. And that is a lot more like what we had going on the neck. Although we do need to bring in that magenta, I think, because we don't want it looking a completely different colour to the rest of her face. Yeah, that's slightly better. I think the main point was I didn't use as much green or orange. That's why we were looking slightly different colour to her neck. I think we're coming in more into line with it now. Bring in that bridge of her nose more with the green, I think. Maybe get rid of the orange this side. And in the dark areas I was using more of the blue and the green, I think, so we will try that. So we'll use the light blue and the green. But I do think it could be the grayscale. There is a larger amount of grayscale down on her neck, so that would be making the colours look slightly different. I'll try darkening this side, this edge of her face here a lot more, because I did bring in the black very slightly down on the neck area for these shadowy areas. So maybe if I bring in the black further on this side of her face. Seems to be what I did on her neck. That seems to be working a lot better. Bringing in the green now. That seemed to be more like what I had going on with her neck on this side of the page. Now we're getting there. That's looking more like what I did with the neck area. Let's try and figure out what I was doing wrong here. Let's erase what we have. I was using the orange a lot more on this side of her neck, so I'll try and bring it in over on this side of her face. And there was a lot more green. That may be looking slightly muddy there. That's because I'm trying to blend the green into the orange, I think, and that's not really working. Let's bring the yellow. That helps, not so muddy now. And again, we don't want to be looking too different than the rest of her face either, so I'll try and bring in a little bit of that magenta. Let me try bringing the orange down here. Not terrible. So, okay, for this side of her face, after erasing a bit, I'm going to try bringing in a bit of the magenta. Maybe blending that into a tiny touch of the orange. And then the yellow. There are some remnants there of the blue that I erased. But I think putting the yellow on top should make that look maybe a little bit green. We can forgive it. And there we go, blend the whole thing with the yellow. Not completely terrible, maybe looking a slightly different colour to the rest of her face. But we do have darker shadows here, so we might be able to get away with that, I think. Not sure this yellow is showing up super well on the camera. Doesn't seem to be at all, is it? But there's not much of the white paper or the cream colour paper showing through here. Just adding in more of that yellow there. Our highlight colour. We might need a little bit of the green down there. Try and shape that a little bit above her mouth there. I do love the way her lips have worked out. They look really good. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, I think, for a minute and zoom us back out so we can see what she looks like from a distance. Okay, I zoomed us out and as usual decided to fiddle with this side of her face. The blending didn't go according to plan, so our lady has ended up with another beauty mark there on her other cheek, which I think suits her pretty well, so yeah, I'm going to stick with it. My colours are slightly darker, I think, than the Christine Karron colours that she was using, but I think it's worked quite well. The colours are slightly brighter, I think, in real life than what they're appearing on the camera, but I will try and adjust those to try and give some more realistic, true-to-life kind of colours. But hopefully you've enjoyed this little experiment today and seeing that you can actually get some quite nice effects, even with the cheapest colour pencils, the Crayola colour pencils. You can get some quite nice effects going on. I'm quite happy with how she's going so far. Okay, so this is future me just popping on as a little bit of an extra outro here, as I thought you guys might want to see the actual finished picture now I've finished working on it. In the end, I did end up sticking with the Crayola pencils. The only other pencils I did bring in were the white Polychromos, as you saw, for the skin here and for actually blending on these daffodil leaves, and I did bring in the pencils that I bought for my pound shop video, these ones here, Pepco colours, because I did like the combination those had going with the gold pencil, the dark brown and the yellow. I thought that worked really nicely, so I've actually used that again on her hair ribbons. I did bring in a gold Posca, this one here, and I also brought in a gold glitter gel pen, which is this one here. I think that says Link Tweeter gel pen. That's quite an old set I did buy from the pound shop as well, actually, like way back before the first lockdown, so those are actually quite old. And I used those for outlining the line art around her wings. I'm not sure if I can get that line art glittering, and for around the daffodils. I just went around the line art with that gold gel pen. I have used quite a lot of glitter glue on her wings for a bit of fairy sparkle there. It never wants to show up in the light, does it? But that is some cheap glitter glue that I actually got from a charity shop at one point. It's not Stickles or any of my expensive glue, but I thought those might work quite nicely with the glitter glue there. I've used this same technique with the gold gel pen and the white gel pen for outlines for these feathers she had going on her eyelashes there, which I think has worked quite nicely. And yeah, all in all, I am super pleased with how it's turned out. If you've watched the video, you will know that I did have a little bit of a struggle going on getting this forehead looking right, but we persevered, got through it, got there in the end with a little bit of erasing and reworking, and I think that's worked super well. And it does kind of show that you can get good effects just with using Crayola, the cheaper pencils. You don't really need super expensive pencils. They do make life easier, they blend a lot better, they're a lot less work, but you can get nice effects with Crayola pencils. Hopefully I've proven that here today. And for the background, this kind of watercolour effect we've got going on in the background here, that's actually the Crayola Super Tips. I thought I'd try to stick with Crayola as much as possible, but this is Crayola Super Tips used as watercolour. And because this is the really nice blue angel paper, it takes the Crayola Super Tips as watercolour, it takes it really well. So you can actually colour onto the paper and then bring the water in on your paintbrush and wash that out into the watercolour kind of effects here, and I think that's worked really well. I love this going on here. I do love those kind of washy effects you can get going on. Yeah, lots of white gel pen. I think I actually used the gold pencil from the Pound Shop set. I used that for a little bit of shading in the daffodils. Everything else the Crayola pencils, and yeah, really happy with how she's turned out. So hopefully you've enjoyed following along with me. So thank you for watching, everybody. If you have enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Take care, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye!